They promised passports, visas, traveling perks, paychecks, and a bright future working abroad. And all that was required to unlock it all was a click, a follow, and some hope. As youth unemployment in the country soars past 45%, a new kind of predator has entered the scene, it would seem, dangling as bait the promise of work abroad, dressed up as opportunity, and in some instances sold by some people that many young South Africans trust the most, and those are influencers. At the center of it all is the program called Alabuga Start Programme, marketed online as a gateway to career success in Russia. But behind the filters and flashy edits lies a far darker truth, it would seem. Allegations of exploitation, deception, and even human trafficking. So let's unpack this whole phenomenon and how a generation's desperation became a digital gold mine, and how social media, instead of opening doors, may have led some straight into danger. So let's try and connect the dots for you. Social media strategist Tshepo Matseba on how influence became a recruitment tool in this particular scheme, as well as the renowned security specialist, former Interpol ambassador Andy Mashaile, on how these schemes exploit vulnerable people. Good afternoon to the both of you, and thank you for joining me. Tshepo, let me start with you perhaps. You know, this all started, I saw that one influencer was trending, and then there was an apology. And for me, it was one of those stories that I did not immediately pay attention to. But as I started hearing about this Alabuga Start Programme and the expressions around possible exploitation, human trafficking, and the likes, then it became clear that this is not just one of those fads of social media. Just tell me what your reading of this whole phenomenon has been and what it reveals about the world of social media and influencers.
Yeah, good afternoon to Lasizwe. Yes, we were, I think both of us are on the same page. We were caught off guard in the sense that there was someone trending, and they've trended before for various reasons. So I didn't take the story that much seriously when it started. But it occurs that young people were made promises of jobs and careers and prospects in Russia. But behind this, we know now that there are other significant questions. And it brings into context the question whether social media influencers have got the latitude and open-ended booklet to simply promote products and services and issues and discuss issues without any consequences or without any guidelines. And we've seen examples of similar matters that impacted people financially when you look at a documentary, The Fire Festival.
Yeah.
In that context, where influencers and models were used to promote a promise of a festival that became, as we know, a global disaster. In this specific instance, many young people in South Africa, due to the context of high youth unemployment, would easily be captured by promises of international work or sometimes even local work. And it raises serious questions about the responsibility of influencers to assess the product and the value proposition that they put forward, but also whether in the context of governance as a country that we have rules and principles in place, or guidelines at least, that can help us to manage this whole influencer situations, as we've seen through many examples that have impacted both companies, individuals in terms of cryptocurrency, but also in terms of influencing the political narrative in the country.
Yeah, Andy, let me bring you in here. There are many genuine, legitimate international recruitment programs, pathways to opportunities, in many instances attached to embassies of various countries and development agencies and the likes. Where do things start to blur and even cross the line between what's legitimate in line with opportunities abroad and exploitation, such as is being alleged in this particular instance?
Tulas, good afternoon to you. One, I look at it from a security point of view. Two, I look at it from a trust point of view. What am I talking about on the 2 points? Point number 2, zero trust. Should there be opportunities in Africa and the rest of the world that looks and sounds to be too good for value, spend time researching on the security of that opportunity. Phone the embassy of Russia in South Africa and find out if they know about the program, if they are involved in the program, if they have produced a sizable number of upstanding members of community from that institution. And I have been conducting research tools for my book, AI Apocalypse 2036, The Invisible Threats Lurking in the Next Decade. And one of these scams came to light, and it was called Alabuga Trust. I am speaking to someone a female in South Sudan. I learned of some horrible stuff. You are then requested to sign an NDA. When you arrive there, you are not supposed to talk anything. Sure. There is no payment. You pay for your boarding and lodging. You pay for the food. You pay and many of those behaviors that would have been a red flag should we have switched on the mindset of security and safety in the opportunity.
Yeah. Let me stick with you, Andy. In terms of the destination where these job opportunities were said to exist, should people have been more circumspect around that? Because part of the allegation has to do with, and it's been reported, I think it's the Associated Press that spoke to about 200 women, mostly from East and Central Africa, that were recruited as part of this. But part of the allegation is that the work for which they were being recruited included weapons manufacture work, the drones assembly and the likes that is supporting Russia's war effort with Ukraine. So is that one of the red flags, perhaps, that think about the destination country and what's currently at play in that destination country?
That would be the best route to take to us. It would also indicate that you're going over there is informed, 1, by facts, 2, by the integrity of the institution, 3, by respect to the Foreign Military Assistance Act of South Africa. Remember, when you're thrown in on that space and there's manufacturing of weapons, it falls squarely within the combat of the Foreign Military Assistance Act. We are not allowed as South Africans to go into conflict zones, either help in the manufacturing of weapons and or participate physically on the battlefield.
Yeah. Tsepo, let me bring you back in. Let's talk influencers. Just tell me about that phenomenon. And as you were talking earlier on, as you were making your first point in this conversation, I started thinking about, if, and I don't mean to demean this at all, that's not my intention at all. Many people are making a living out of it, so far be it from me to demean and denigrate what they do. But I was saying, in any other profession, you start thinking about the ethics of all of it. What's the ethical duty of a professional in this space? Is it too much to ask or too early to even be having that conversation about if you have so much influence, then you must bear some responsibility and therefore, expect that certain expectations will be made of you?
Yeah, the context to us is difficult because the whole concept of influencer marketing is an evolving one. We've seen that recently with podcasts, where a particular podcaster would make disparaging remarks about a woman or a woman, and that specific instance, Minnie Dlamini decided to take matters and litigate. So there's a court case underway that will be coming pretty soon. We're anticipating that we'll learn lessons from that specific one. In Europe, there are specific guidelines that are set for how podcasters and social media influencers should engage with the public. In South Africa, I think we are growing. We are still at a young age. We have a very a large population of unemployed young people who are talented and who are trying to make a mark in this landscape. And therefore, it's going to always be a blurry space. But what matters the most is that for the influencer, the minute you begin to start participating in that role, you must understand that it is a business. In fact, SARS is now talking about taxation for influencers and the consequences of that they are going to face if they don't comply with the law in terms of tax or income tax, including the gifts that they receive. So it's an evolving space, but for an individual influencer and the brands that they influence, it may help to do some basic research, desktop research, to figure out, is the product that I'm being asked to promote legitimate? Is it aligned to my own values? Is it aligned with the constitution and the law of South Africa? Or am I being asked, for example, to perpetuate propaganda? Is it in the line of bell pottingers that we've seen in the past? Yeah. Or is it a genuine request to promote a brand and proposition? So as an individual, we need to, at least at a minimum, use universally acceptable values and norms to determine and dissect whether something is factual or not. And the world over, including in South Africa, the mainstream media and other platforms do provide fact-check platforms for influencers to use, and anyone actually to use, in the sense that you can go and fact-check whether, if you are promoting a health product, whether that product is safe, because when you go to health, you may actually place somebody's life at risk, and therefore it may be more pressing to be far more cautious when it comes to what product you are promoting. In terms of the issue we are discussing right now, when you look at Russia as an infrastructure, there are many entry points to speak to Russia as a market. In fact, the Russians themselves have said, well, there are many opportunities for South Africans to study in Russia. If you go to South Africa's government departments, the Department of Higher Education, you'll see that there are explicit opportunities in terms of media releases and collaboration between South Africa and Russia. So influencers ought to do some research as opposed to simply taking things at face value and advertising.
Let's leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you for joining me, to the both of you. Tshepo Matseba, who is a social media strategist, as well as Andy Mashaile, a former Interpol ambassador and a security expert, joining us on that conversation.